Hey guys, it's 8.1 intro, and this is our first video for this unit and our last video for the year. So that is exciting. The lesson objective students will be able to choose a book from the list or other literary book, their book club, and make reading deadlines. So the question you have in your mind, what are we doing for the last English unit of our high school career? Pretty exciting. Let me tell you all about it. First of all, you're going to choose a literary book to read. And I have a bunch that you can choose from in class, or you can choose your own with some conditions. You're going to then make a group. You have to work with at least one other person, and I think groups can be big as 5, but no larger than that. Don't ask. And everybody needs to be reading a different book. You're going to talk about your book with each other in 3 chunks. The first 2 are going to be formatively assessed, and the last one summatively assessed. And then we're also going to do one other summative assessment, which is the case parte. It is the Character Awards Ceremony Extravaganza, and it's on the calendar so you can check when it is. I'll tell you more about this the closer we get to it, but just know right now that there are 3 key things you have to do for the case awards in order to get your 50 summative points. You have to come as a character that day, impersonating one of the characters we've met this year. And you have to accept an award as that character. And then you also have to work in a group on creating an award for a different character. And then finally, your group also is going to be responsible for some kind of behind the scenes activity to make the party function well. Okay, so that's the case, and I put it with this last unit because this is our last unit. And so we've got the 2 separate 50-point summative assessments. One is the book club, and then one is going to be like about a week later, and it's going to be this party that we throw for our characters that we've come to love and hate this year. All right, let's see what else have I got here. The book list and literary book test. Well, I've got a book list, and they're basically books that I have. And so they're going to be in the classroom. And so just look on that cart or in those bins of books to see what you can read, right? You also do have to pick a literary book. So what do I mean by a literary book? Well, it's a book that was written and is read more for its literary value than for its mass appeal and popularity. Okay, so I've got a specific criteria that I'm calling the literary book test, and it has 5 factors. And this is in your packet. The first is the author. The second is social and cultural relevance. The third is popularity versus prestige. Is it a book everybody knows about and reads, or is it a book that everyone's heard about and maybe few have read it, right? Language and style is the 4th factor, and then the 5th, emotional resonance. So I've got the criteria all mapped out, and what you have to do when looking at your book, if it's not one of my books, you have to look at the 5 factors and determine where it would fit in this rubric. All right, so author, the most literary is the furthest to the right, and I've even given you a score. It has to get to 10 in order for it to work for the book club. And what I need from you is to just send me an email or show me or handwrite on paper a rationale for why your book should be considered a literary book and thus worthy for the book club unit using the literary book test. Okay? All right. So you're going to choose your group by either finding one of the books in the classroom, and if that's the case, if it's one of my books, just tell me, you know, I'm taking this book with me, and then you'll be responsible for it. I usually suggest that you just write your first name in pencil in the cover and, you know, hang on to it in your backpack. If it's a Media Center book, please check it out with the Media Center. And then if you want a different book, it's got to pass that literary book test, and it has to be at least 200 pages long. And then finally, you've got to find your own copy of it, of course, and you need to bring it to class. All right. So I'd really like you to have it tomorrow. If you don't have it right away on the first day, when it's suggested that we're reading, which is why I said tomorrow. I don't know when you're watching this video, right? So, but that first day when I have the first target deadline to choose a book, that's when I want you to have the book. And if you don't have it that day, then I'm going to ask that you pick one of the books from the classroom library. And then as far as your group, you get to pick your group. Like I said earlier, you have to work with at least one other person. You can work with up to 4 other people. And, you know, make sure they're people you like, people you trust, people you can count on, right? There will be opportunities to make up book clubs if people are absent. But it'll be easier if you're working with folks who you can trust and who you know care about books and they're great as much as you do, right? Okay. So the key, though, is that everybody's reading a different book. Okay? So make sure everyone is reading a different book than you and from each other as you're making your book groups. The deadlines, we're going to read this in 3 chunks. So figure out the total number of pages, divide by 3, and then look in the book to determine where good places to end are going to be. Don't make it just arbitrary based on the number, but actually investigate, look in the book, and find a good place to end, like the end of a chapter or the end of a section. And check the calendar, too, to see are there more days for one deadline than the other. I also think it's harder to get started with a book sometimes. You might want that first deadline to be a little bit shorter than the other 2. You get to decide on all of that. And then, of course, you're going to write those down in your packet. And in order to show mastery on this first lesson, you're going to show me this information. Okay, I think that's all I've got. So, yeah, in order to show mastery on 8.1, you are showing me what book you're going to read and that you have it physically. You're going to tell me who the other people in your book club group are, and finally what your 3 deadlines are. Okay, welcome to our last unit.